Hi, folks. John Gugerty here with you on FATV. In just a moment, we're going to be bringing you the first of many telecasts of actual fall sports that are happening in and around Fitchburg and that we're going to be showing you on FATV. It's going to be Fitchburg High girls soccer as they take on the Panthers of Quabbin. But first of all, obviously with, well, the situation that is going on, there was some question here at FATV, should we be covering these games? Can we do this thing safely? So here's what we're doing. First of all, we have a skeleton crew in place at the events. This is not the big time 4-camera production that you're used to from our football telecasts at Crocker Field. We have one camera on site and a very minimal crew, the absolute bare minimum number of people that we can send to bring you a game. Secondly, all of the FATV personnel who are there are going to be wearing masks, maintaining social distancing, and we have hand sanitizer available at all times. Obviously, if anyone is feeling sick for any reason, no questions asked, don't come. Second, another thing, we're from Crocker Field, we're going to be broadcasting from the press box. Only FATV personnel are allowed in or around the press box, and we have no direct contact, no contact at all with anyone involved in the actual game itself. We don't talk to the officials before the games. We don't go shake hands with the players, anything like that. We are maintaining as much distance between ourselves and the game as we can while still bringing it to you. And as long as we do that, we feel that our presence is not increasing the risk to the players or the officials who are taking part in the game. Should these games be happening, that's a totally different conversation to be had, and we will have it. But we feel that because these games are happening, it's our duty and our privilege to bring them to you at home, because after all, there are a lot of folks who care about these games, who want to be there, but can't and shouldn't be there in attendance. So that's our job at FATV. We bring the games to you. I'm going to be joined by Dan Bolek in just a second. We're going to talk about a soccer game because at the end of the day, there is a game to be played. It's Fitchburg versus Quabbin, and it starts right now here on FATV. From historic Crocker Field in downtown Fitchburg, Massachusetts, it is Fitchburg High School girls soccer as the Red Raiders take on the Panthers of Quabbin. I'm John Gugerty, joined, of course, by Dan Bolek. Dan, it's good to be calling a game on FATV again, isn't it?
It's been quite a long time, but today we get to bring you soccer from Crocker Field. It's a very unique perspective, a very unique setup to see the soccer lines on Crocker as opposed to the football grid lines. But we're going to have a very interesting game as we start this endeavor, if you will.
Both teams looking for their first win of the season. Fitchburg got a draw in their first game. That was against Oakmont. Quabbin coming in off a loss to Gardner. Looks like Quabbin's going to get control early, and Dan Bolek is going to have the play-by-play.
Thank you very much, John. As you see Quabbin in the road, white uniforms, white socks going left to right in this first half of play. Fitchburg is wearing the home red uniforms with black and white trim and black numbers. They are going from right to left in this first half of play. As you can see them challenging for the ball on the far side. Quabbin also with the gold numbers on the white. So
gold on white in bright sunlight. They didn't design these jerseys with television in mind, I think, did they, Dan?
No, and that's actually sort of a tactic that you see sometimes with some teams, is to get gold numbers on white because it makes it more difficult for teams to scout their opponents because they can't see who is who out there.
That's true.
Now, of course, this is going to make it for us to try to tell you who these players are for Quabbin. But we can tell you Quabbin last year, they were 12-5-3, as we have a foul there. First whistle of the game, and a free kick coming against the Red Raiders. First free kick of the game coming for Quabbin. Got to get the sides right here.
Yeah, I think if the New Orleans Saints wanted to bust out, a white jersey with gold numbers, CBS or Fox would have the sway to be like, no, that looks bad on TV. FATV, at least as of yet, maybe eventually we will have that kind of stroke, but we don't at the moment. So you'll have to bear with us as we try to identify the players on the Panthers of Quabbin.
Indeed. And so the ball going out of bounds. Looks like we are going to have a corner kick from the near side corner. Now bringing it up, actually. Couldn't see exactly where it went out of bounds, but this is going to be one of the changes they've made this year, is they're having kick-ins now instead of throw-ins. And to try to, as part of social distancing, just trying to keep things as safe as possible. So that's into the area, settled down in the 6, tumbling to the ground, the whistle blows. We're going to have a penalty here in the 3rd minute of play.
Less than 3 minutes in, Quabbin already awarded a penalty.
As you can see the players really coming in to the 6-yard area and just coming together, falling to the ground, and a foul called against the Red Raiders. And so a penalty kick coming for Quabbin. Tanila Council, the goaltender for the Red Raiders, getting set there. The sophomore ready to face this penalty. As Quabbin trying to get on the board here in the 4th minute. Firing right side, it scores!
Just like that, less than 4 minutes into the game, the Raiders basically had themselves on the back foot from the start, wind up conceding the foul in the box, and it turns into a penalty and a goal, 1-0 to the Panthers here in the 1st.
What a way to get the first shot of the game. So Quabbin on the board in the 4th minute.
They look to press the advantage here.
Pushing forward, top of the area, settled down. They'll try to flip it in. Just barely kept in, no. Just barely over the line it goes. It'll be a goal kick for the Red Raiders.
Now, Dan, while we have a bit of time here, obviously, folks at home, you can see all of the players, it looks like, and the officials are wearing masks. You did mention that they're doing kick-ins instead of throw-ins. The MIAA and all of the schools involved are doing everything they can to make this as safe as possible. At the end of the day, you've still got, a few dozen girls down there running hard and breathing all over each other. So I'll be generous and say it's an open question as to whether this should even be happening. But again, as we touched on at the start of the program, our presence in this is not contributing to the risk, so we feel comfortable bringing it to you at least.
Indeed, and yes, it is part of the rules that every player's got to be wearing their masks when play restarts. If you're going to be within 6 feet of anyone, you must make sure you have your mask on. If your mask has come off and you're in close distance, then the whistle's going to have to blow there. Also, body contact between the players has to be minimalized as well. We've seen some contact here and there, but as long as it's below the torso and it's incidental, they'll play on. But other than that, though, you're not going to be seeing any slide tackles. You're not going to be seeing any heading of the ball in this contest, as players will be whistled for a foul and an indirect free kick will be awarded if we see any of that today.
So really, Dan, it's something that teams have to prepare for. They know the officials are going to be very liberal, very quick on the whistle, especially early in the season. You imagine the teams are going to be playing very tight, very conservatively. There's not going to be much feeling out in terms of, well, can I get away with this? Can I get away with maybe a little bit more than that? Again, especially in these early games, they've got to be playing it close to the vest, because the last thing you want to do is concede, 2 or 3 dozen free kicks over the course of a game, because that's a great way to lose a game.
Indeed, it will make things a bit more challenging. It's a very different brand of soccer than we are used to seeing. But it's just a matter of doing what it takes to be.
And it really puts the emphasis on ball control, and that's something we've seen Quabbin do very well early on here. Their passing has been pretty crisp. They've been able to get it from one player to another. Hey, we can actually identify someone. This is Gretel DeMoro about to do the kick-in. We finally see a number for Quabbin, Dan. It's a miracle.
Indeed. Like I said, this is going to be one of the more challenging things of the day. There's Riley Rischitelli, She had the lone goal for the Panthers against Quabbin as a shot lofted downfield, well wide of the cage.
Richatelli, we should be able to figure, we should be able to follow her throughout the rest of the game, even as she goes back out into the sun, because she's got those distinctive braided pigtails.
Yep. And was it her who took the penalty earlier?
I don't think so.
Oh, and there's a nice chance there for the Panthers. A turnover at the top of the 6-yard box, but put over the crossbar.
That was a golden opportunity for the Panthers. Unfortunately for them, they were unable to capitalize. Red Raiders will get the goal kick as we approach the 12:30 mark. Now, Dan, for folks who might be watching their first girls soccer game on FATV, I know it's the first one we've broadcasted as a duo, probably the first one we've had here on the network in quite some time. We're seeing 12:15 in the first now. How is that broken down?
So normally, in normal times, it's 40-minute halves, 2 40-minute halves, but to try to help create more mask breaks so that players can take a moment, take a breath, they separate it into 4 quarters of 20 minutes. So we still get the 80 minutes of soccer that we normally would have, as Council will come out, challenge, knock that away, and Chloe Lavigueur will knock that downfield on the far side, as Quabbin's still trying to push the advantage.
Really good aggressive goaltending there by Tanila Council. That was a very dangerous attack by Quabbin, and it was a risky play for her, because if she misplays that ball or just flat out misses it, it's a walk-in goal for the Panthers. But Council played it perfectly and got it away.
9th minute of action, Quabbin up by a goal to nil, scoring on a penalty in the 4th minute. As Richatelli still trying to push on. That one knocked to the near side of the field, bouncing towards the corner. Quabbin not sure if they could play it, keep that alive. And that one ends up going out of bounds as it settles in the feet of Elysium Fernandez.
I think Quabbin was able to save a goal kick there, but they definitely conceded the kick in. So the Raiders will get it back onto the field as we approach the halfway point of what is, again, the first quarter of action here. Unusual to see quarters at a soccer game, but it's unusual to see a lot of things in 2020. And if this is the most unusual one we see going forward, well, thank goodness for that, I guess.
And look forward to the first field hockey game we'll have, which field hockey normally played 11-on-11 this year for high school play is 7-on-7. That'll be something we will have in the days to come. As mentioned, we've reached the halfway point, and there is a whistle. Looks like that's, I believe, the first foul Quabbin has conceded in this contest. It brings up another point for change, is the whistles that you're hearing, the officials are not bringing a whistle to their mouth and blowing through it. Those are electronic whistles, as that one spent just wide of the goal from the top right corner of the penalty area. Looks like the first shot attempt for Fitchburg in this contest.
You mentioned the electronic whistles, Dan. That's a neat little innovation. It doesn't sound like much. The officials are very far away and obviously open air at Crocker Field, but any little bit that we can do to minimize the risk here while still playing these games, it's important to the players. It's important to the teams. They want to be out there playing. So the more we can do to make it as safe an environment as possible, the better.
They battle forward on the far side, sending it across, and goes off the side of the net. And so another goal kick coming for the Red Raiders. You can see Tanila Council wears number 46 as she goes to retrieve that ball. The roster we gave, she did not actually have a number assigned to her, but now we get to know what it is.
There we go. It's 46. Council conceded about 2.5 goals per game last year. She was the starter for all 17 contests in which the Red Raiders play. Her opposite number, Sophia Holland, goaltender for the Panthers, hasn't been tested yet in this one. Her GAA was under 1. She gave up less than 0.73 goals against in 2019. A fantastic mark for her.
Holland, she's a junior. And Council, she played all those games last year as a freshman. So it's interesting to see a player she gets the nod in every single game, more or less because she's the only keeper on the roster. But sometimes you do what you have to do, as Madison Brewer's going to have the kick in here for Quabbin.
You can call it doing what you want to do, but I think it's really impressive to start a freshman keeper every game and still walk away with a winning record. The Red Raiders were 9-7-1 in 2019, and they look to improve on that mark here in 2020.
And of course, last year they made it to the postseason for the first time in their 25-year history as well. And that's definitely something, too, that I know Yanina Fasaro, the head coach of the Red Raiders, her first season was last year, and she wasn't expecting that at all. To be able to come in and immediately be able to lead the side to the postseason. Of course, Elle Scott really assisted in that, the striker for the Red Raiders with 41 goals now at Division I Fairfield University. That really helped a whole lot for the Red Raiders to really push them above and beyond heights that they'd never been to before.
We saw Hannah and Amelia Stevenson trying to hook up with each other on that play for Quabbin. Pass went just a little bit too long for Amelia. Led to a goal kick for the Raiders, but they've already turned it back over.
So Quabbin continuing to push here. 6:40 to go in the first quarter of play. They lead by 1-0 on a 4th-minute penalty.
And we should point out as well, we're going to be giving times. We did keep time unofficially just for the ease of our broadcast and to be able to pass that data along to you folks at home. The official time for this game, and I believe all of the games we're going to be covering for you here in 2020, that official time is kept on the field. So there may be some bit of discrepancy. When we say 6:40, it might actually be 6:25 or 7:15, something in there. But we're going to be doing the best we can to give you the time as we know it. But do keep in mind, folks, that it is not 100% official.
It's all a matter of trying to do the best we can to bring the action to you, to try to make the broadcast as good as we can. Quabbin had the kick go awry there, so a goal kick here for the Red Raiders. Another rule change this year is that you cannot kick the ball from a goal kick beyond midfield on the fly. The ball goes straight from the kicker's foot across the midfield line. They'll blow play dead there, and then it will be an indirect free kick from the midfield line as that one pulled in by counsel.
And is that just to further discourage heading of the ball? Like, what's the reasoning behind that rule change?
Yeah, probably to discourage, playing the ball in the air, in which players will often come together challenging for the ball. But I believe you've got that point right, John, that also is to discourage heading of the ball, which, as we've mentioned, is not allowed this season.
Right.
So a lot of different changes being made to try to bring this game to make it happen. That's floated into the area, but too far and out of reach for the Panthers, and counsel will gobble that up. She'll boot it downfield. I'll also say this is, I think, the first time I've ever called a soccer game in which there weren't soccer gridiron lines on the field. There's an interesting showdown there as the keeper for the Panthers and Sophia Holland coming out to challenge there.
Probably the most physical challenge we've seen from either side to this point. It reminded me a lot, Dan, of the play Tanila Council made earlier in the quarter where, I complimented her for coming out and playing it perfectly. To my eye, Holland got a lot of the attacking player for Fitchburg there. No foul given, however.
I'll say incidental as she was trying to make a play on the ball, but obviously in that spot too, couldn't pick it up with her hands. She was making the contact outside of the area, but she made sure to play the ball with her feet to keep that going, to make sure it was incidental. But yeah, definitely an aggressive challenge there. We're into the 16th, 17th minute of action, under 4 to go here in this first quarter of play. Quabbin leading 1-0. That one kicked out of bounds, and another goal kick. Another kick in is what I want to say.
There we go.
We're trying to shake off the rust ourselves.
Zoe Meyer there with a good defensive play for the Raiders. Felt that one getting a little bit away from her. So just, boot it out of bounds, give everybody a breather, set back up, and let's play some proper defense here. And she just does it again there.
And of course, there are no ball boys or ball girls around to retrieve the soccer balls as they go out. And so that's going to give everyone a bit of a longer break than you would expect with what would have been a throw-in. And now another kick in for the Panthers. Floats between the legs. Fitchburg trying to push up to the center line. Jordan Butler around the area there for Fitchburg. Now another challenge in, but keeping it alive is Quabbin as they'll go to the near side. Has that ball gone a little too far? It has indeed. And another goal kick coming. That's the time for the goal kick now for Fitchburg.
Yeah. And really, Dan, getting back to your point about ball boys, and I guess touching on all of the rules changes that have been made. These changes, obviously, they change the way the game is played. You have to play it a little less physically. You can't play it as aerially, but ultimately, it's still soccer. It's still the same game, and I think that's the reason why games like soccer and field hockey can continue to be played, whereas, say, football, you line up for a football play, you've got at least 11 kids all right on top of each other, just with the offensive and defensive lines breathing in each other's face. You just can't do that, and you can't legislate that out of the game. So I think for people wondering, including myself, who was wondering, why are we playing soccer or field hockey or some other sports when we couldn't play football? Shot taken there by Quabbin, good save made by Council. For people who were wondering that, I think you can say you can legislate certain things out of soccer to make it safer while still being soccer, and you can't do that for a sport like football.
That one booted out of bounds, and a goal kick coming for Fitchburg. And I know some states, they've had to go to something along with like 7-a-side football or touch football if they want to try to keep their seasons alive. A couple of other states, which have been a little lesser risk, have been trying to go on with it anyway. And as you've mentioned, whether or not that's really a good idea, it all comes down to various things. We're now into the final minute here of this first quarter of play, the 20th minute of the contest. Out of 80 scheduled, 1-0 Quabbin in front. As Brulette trying to keep it for Fitchburg, loses it, sends it across, but that one cuts behind the net. From my count is, I believe, the 7th shot that Quabbin has attempted. They've got 3 on target compared to Fitchburg's single shot off target.
Yeah, Quabbin has just absolutely dominated possession of the ball all throughout this first quarter. You just reflected it in the shot total, but just watching the game, all of the action has been on the right side of the field. Quabbin has been in absolute control. They have to be very, very happy with how this first quarter has come off.
And the prolongated electronic whistle sounding there tells us that is 1/4 time here from Crocker Field. 1-0 Quabbin in front as we've completed 1 quarter of play.
Again, just a fantastic quarter of action for Quabbin, Dan. They have been up and down the field. They did concede just the one shot. Fitchburg had an opportunity or two, but Quabbin, the early penalty goal in the 4th minute really set the tone for them, and they have just continued to press the advantage. They're looking very much like the team they were last year when they finished 2nd in Midwatch C. And as we talk about Midwatch C, I think it's worth talking a little bit about the schedule and the sort of pod setup that these teams have. So basically, Dan, and you would know more about this than I would, there are essentially 5 teams here, and they're only going to play against each other. Is that pretty much the point?
Yes, so for girls and boys soccer, the pod that Fitchburg has been assigned to will consist of 5 teams. So that's Fitchburg, that's Quabbin out in Barrie, then Gardner, Oakmont, and Narragansett. Also part of this pod in all the fall sports is Murdoch. However, Murdoch has struggled with their numbers in boys and girls soccer. And so really back in April, they came to an agreement with Narragansett that they would co-op and act as one team this year. Narragansett will host the players from Murdoch, and so thus creating their own combined team. Those are Thanksgiving Day rivals coming together
It's a
to
bit like
form a
if
team.
Fitchburg and Leominster got together and were like, hey, you know that thing about how we hate each other? Can we just pretend that's not a thing?
It's interesting how in some sports that ends up happening, not just in soccer, but in other sports. Along, like with ice hockey, for instance, all of the Worcester schools are one team. It's the same for all the schools in Lynn. They're just one single team for that sport. And so it's very interesting when you see rivals come together, but sometimes that's what you need to do to make things happen.
Right.
And
And
so,
really, it's about trying to make it happen. And I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I think, the MIAA, and especially at this level, the decisions are being made by, can we let these games go on? Can we give these girls the playing time that they've earned and that they've been working for their entire careers up to this point in a safe way? And the thing that makes, Massachusetts, Division III girls soccer a little bit different from, say, Texas high school football is there isn't a ton of money influencing the decision one way or another. There isn't tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars and, tens of millions of dollars of careers down the line on the line influencing the decision, well, can we try to play? It's really about, we want to play, obviously, because, that's why we do this. But if it's not safe, we don't have that burden tying us down and forcing us to say, well, we have to deliver coverage to these networks or anything like that. I promise I will shut up about justifying the playing of this game at some point. Probably. Back me up, Dan.
yeah, just trying to think of something to say as we start this second quarter of play.
It's fine. You get to be the normie. I get to be the wacko lefty. It's our gimmick now.
So Quabbin trying to make the touch on from Madison Brewer. She gets it back, pushing it along to her teammate. As long as you're in the shadows of the trees there, I can see that Riley Rischitelli had the ball and moved it out to the center circle. But once you're out of the shadows of the trees, you're just another player.
Pretty much.
That one kicked out of bounds off the foot of Zoe Meyer. And it'll be a kick in coming for Quabbin.
It presents an interesting opportunity, Dan, the quarter break, something that coaches typically don't have. It's, something that Yanina Forsaro, we saw her there, really took advantage of, trying to rally her troops and get them back into this game as we get into the second quarter of action.
Definitely does change the complexion of the game a little bit in how they do things. I think the closest comparable is in collegiate soccer. I mean, televised collegiate soccer. We'll stop for a moment as Quabbin's got to go here. A shot on block, the second chance, another block there from the Red Raiders. The first blocked by Alexa Silverberg, the second by Corinne Palladian. And Fitchburg able to clear it from danger, but two good chances there for the Panthers.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Dan. Silverberg and Palladian both did fantastic jobs getting their body in the path of the ball. Obviously, no handballs, no heading of the ball, anything like that, but just good, solid blocks. Those shots never got on target. And, if the shot never gets to goal, it can't get in the goal.
So I guess going back to what I was saying, for collegiate soccer, they play 2 45-minute halves. And on games that are televised in which they've negotiated commercial breaks, they will take a commercial break in the middle of the halves, the first stoppage past halfway, and the game will stop for a couple of minutes while the advertisers go and make some money. This is, I think, the closest comparable that I can think of when it comes to soccer here, except, we have the break, we have it scheduled, we know when it's coming, more or less. But this time it's not a case of we're going to let the networks try to make some money. In this case, we're taking breaks because we're letting players take a breath. There's a shot, wow, from well. That was about a 30-yard shot there for Quabbin, and Council able to track it well.
Tracked it well, and that shot was on target, Dan. That was heading for the bottom left corner. If Council didn't play that, it would have been 2-0.
But a great chance for Quabbin there. Now back into the area again, stepping up, trying to keep that going. Left-footed shot goes wide to the right.
That shot was a little bit less on target.
As mentioned, Quabbin 12-5-3 last year. They made the playoffs for the third consecutive year. They normally play in Division 3 of girls soccer. There's 4 divisions in Massachusetts. Central Mass does not participate in Division 2, so it's just 1, 3, and 4 in Central Mass. Quabbin in that middle division played very well, won their first round game against Hudson before falling to Bromfield. In the quarterfinals, another shot for the Panthers goes wide of the cage.
And Dan, so far, early going in the second quarter, but it has been very similar to the first. Quabbin just looks to have the better run of play. They have control of the ball. Their passes are more accurate. Fitchburg will get it for a moment or two, but they can't sustain possession. And eventually, as this game goes on, either the Raiders are going to have to turn things around, or you have to believe their defensive line is going to get tired and, bend but don't break will only take you so far.
That is definitely one of the challenges, to try to keep the play up for a full 80 minutes. 15:35 to go in the second quarter. In the first half, you can also say at this point. Quabbin scored on a penalty in the 4th minute. And that's all the score we have right now. Shots 12-1 in favor of the Panthers. That's unofficial. Official as well as I can keep track. Shots on target I have as a more modest 4-0 as that's sent across. Settled down for a moment by Mauricio Fernandez. And that one knocked into touch. And it's going to be a goal kick for the Red Raiders. I don't believe we've seen a corner yet in this contest.
I thought we were going to see one there. Fernandez was surrounded by 3 players, and it looked like she just booted it out over the back line, but that must have gone off of a Panther. A really good defensive play by Mauricio Fernandez.
And she'll have the kick in here on the near side. And that's something that we're getting used to as we call this game from the comfort of our own homes. You out in West Springfield, myself here in Fitchburg. We are calling off the video feed that we have. And sometimes we don't get to see those subtle touches as DeMoro will kick it in for the Panthers.
But that will not be the case for every game this year, Dan. There will be some games that are happening earlier in the week that I'm not available for, but you will be actually on site calling those games. Is that correct?
Yep, that is the plan. And again, we plan on doing this, keeping safe as possible, as you mentioned in the intro. We're going to be keeping well away from everybody. We're going to be practicing our social distancing. I'm going to call the whole game with a mask on, as long as it's not terribly muffled. And I myself, when I'm not a sports broadcaster, I have been working as an essential worker in retail, as that's flipped into the area and juggled out of bounds.
Yeah, that ball just went off Council's hands, and she just kind of walked it over the line. We're going to have our first corner.
Just had trouble settling that one down.
I mean, I guess if you're a goaltender and you're going to toss the ball over the line, it's better that it goes for a corner kick than a goal, but it's still not what you want.
One would like better than that is that one not as cleanly played as Quabbin would have liked, and trying to pull it out is Ariana Lopez, pushing it along as it goes out to Butler. And we have a whistle here.
Raiders trying to strike on the counter. That's been where most of their offense has come from, Dan. And one thing that occurs to me, we've talked a little bit about, the increased emphasis on reducing aerial play, no heading of the ball, no goal kicks over the midline. I think as the season goes on, we're going to be seeing teams taking a lot of short corners, just try to get themselves into an advantageous position, because you can't really do the long in-swinging corner and get that ball headed in.
Definitely makes things a bit more challenging. Again, one of the changes you have to make as one of those many adjustments that comes in to change things. Also, that corner kicks are considered indirect free kicks this year as well. So you can't kick it in directly off the corner anyway. You've got to have a touch somewhere along the way before it goes in the net. So if you've got that wonderful bend into the goal. If it doesn't touch anyone, it's definitely not going to count. But it also means, too, that players have to make sure they stay onside, although that should be easier. That should be a trivial matter when you're dealing with corners. Because after all, how are you going to get players above the ball at the time of the kick?
It's difficult. I mean, I guess you could just be in the goal. I feel like there might be a rule against that. There probably should be.
And now here's going to be a pseudo corner for Quabbin after the foul against Fitchburg. It's a turnaround shot, but that one ends up getting blocked.
That was Karine Palladian again, just putting her body in between the attacking Panther and the path of the ball. I believe that was Gretel DeMauro who took that shot for Quabbin.
I believe so, and it's going to be interesting is in the second half. It's like we're mostly calling players who are playing on the right side as there's a shot into the area. They've gone off a player before going wide to the right. And considering where the players are setting up, it is going to be a corner for Quabbin, so indeed it did. So as I was saying, and that's something I've learned from my years of calling games, is often you end up calling a lot of players on a team that goes left to right, players on the right side of the field, and then you're going to deal with completely different names in the second half because you're going to be seeing so many players who play on the left side.
Just as soon as you learn them, they go ahead and switch them. How dare they?
There one slow roller into the area, but it was on target, and Council will take no chances smothering that one up.
Pretty sure that came off the boot of Riley Rischitelli.
And Rischitelli, she's the leading scorer coming in for Quabbin, of course. She had the lone goal against Gardner on the 6th. That was a 4-1 defeat for the Panthers. Panthers could not solve Savannah Pineda, who scored 4 times for the Wildcats. As Quabbin continuing to push. Another shot trying to turn that towards goal, but hits the side of the net.
We've just about passed the halfway point here in the second quarter. I'm sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to step on you there.
Of course, that's another thing we also need to get used to because, again, we are many, many miles away. But the powers of the internet have allowed us to bring narration to this contest.
Yes, because I never stepped on you when we were 2 feet apart, crammed into the press box at Elliott Field. It's only when we're on the internet that I screw things up for you, right, Dan?
So 9 minutes to go in this second quarter of play. Quabbin still up by a goal to nil. And now a chance to press here. A shot on punching, saved by Council. A second chance goes behind the net.
Fantastic save by Council, diving to her right, scrambling up to her feet. Quabbin really had an opportunity there. You know, Council was getting up and might have been in a position to make a play on the ball, but on that rebound, I think if the shot is on target, it very likely would have been a second goal for the Panthers. But the initial save, again, by Tanila Council was fantastic.
5 saves already for the sophomore in this contest, from my count. And still a lot of soccer to play here. 48 more minutes scheduled as players falling over themselves and one of them a bit slow to get up there as we had a bit of a collision there outside the area.
Very aggressive forward play there by Quabbin. I believe that's Sarah Primo, number 7 for the Panthers. Went through one player, tried to go through another, and unfortunately, that second player for Fitchburg is down and holding her right knee.
Definitely not what you want to see.
That's Zoe Meyer. We've called her name a number of times. She's been a standout on the right side of the defense for Fitchburg. Trying to see if she can continue in this one or might have to be an early substitution for the Red Raiders.
Make things a bit challenging. We go to 7 minutes. Oh, clock may stop during this part, but you know that's just how we can best we can do right now.
See Meyer there moving toward the sideline under her own power. By the way the players are lining up, Dan, it looks like they're setting up for a free kick for the Panthers.
Might be the case. In fact, it is.
So insult added to a hopefully not that serious injury for the Red Raiders. In addition to losing Zoe Meyer, they now have a very dangerous free kick deep in their own area.
Could be a great chance here for Quabbin, but misplayed there. Is Fitchburg able to read the trajectory of the ball and pull it out of danger as the ball makes its way out to midfield? So on the right side, and push towards the area. Quabbin trying to settle. Fitchburg trying to push it away. Not giving them that opportunity. Now Brewer trying to settle it. That ping ball into the area. And Council's got to rush out from the goal line to the top of the 6-yard box to get on top of that one, get it out of danger.
It's the second time today, Dan, that we've seen Tenila Council come rushing out of the goal with a very aggressive play, and it was the second time that it worked out very well for Fitchburg. Council showing very good defensive instincts. Again, she's only a sophomore, but the experience of having played every game in her freshman year is really carrying over for her. I think she's going to be a key asset to this Red Raider team for as long as she's active.
There's a great chance on goal for Quabbin, and that's stopped by Council as well.
That's like the reverse broadcaster jinx, right? You talk about how great someone is, and then they do something great. How often does that happen?
Half dozen saves now for Council in this contest. We conclude the 35th minute of action. 1-0, Quabbin still in front. The way they've been dominating this game, it feels like they should have 3 or 4 on the board already. Remarkable already for the Red Raiders. They've been able to hold them to just 1.
It really is, Dan, and I think that's due to not only the play of Tenila Council, but I think the fullbacks for the Red Raiders deserve some credit as well. We've talked up Corrine Palladian has made a couple of good blocks. You just saw Amrician Fernandez kick a ball out that was looking pretty dangerous. So, the defense for Fitchburg has been tested. Quabbin has had the majority of the play for the first, 36 minutes or so, but Fitchburg is lucky but also deserving, I think, of only being down 1-0. The key for them is going to be, get something on the counterattack or just try to control the possession a little bit more as we head toward the end of the first half with an eye toward the second half.
Fitchburg taking advantage of a turnover there as they'll get the kick in. Deep in their own territory. I don't think we've seen the ball that much in the Quabbin half of the field in this second quarter of play.
No, certainly not in the second quarter. I don't believe Fitchburg even has a shot in this quarter.
Oh, they absolutely do not. In fact, I don't think I've even seen Sophia Holland in this second quarter.
Maybe they just put a cardboard cutout in the goal. That's what they're doing at all of the pro stadiums, right?
Great time to be getting some homework in. Fitchburg will have the kick in, 200 seconds to go in the first half. Still trailing by a 0-0. A penalty in the 4th minute, the lone tally in this contest.
Right now, the teams are just trapped in this cycle of Quabbin getting a kick in and Fitchburg kicking it back out. It's a good way to stall, if nothing else, for the Raiders.
That one kicked in off the feet of a Panther, and out of bounds it'll go. It'll be another goal kick for the Red Raiders.
Dan, I feel the need to point something out.
Go ahead.
Panthers don't have feet. They have paws.
Yes, they do.
First terrible joke of the season. We really are back. Feels so good.
Got plenty of time to build on that. It's Fitchburg finally making a run here. This is Jordan Butler making a run on into the area. Butler trying to settle it down, looking for somewhere to go, turns a shot. And that ends up going wide to the right, but still, we finally get to see Sophia Holland as the Red Raiders get their second shot of the contest.
Jordan Butler had a really strong breakaway there. I'm not entirely sure why she elected to spin around and try to make something happen. She didn't really have any support with her, but it looked like if she had just kept running with it, she might have been able to get a shot off. Certainly a better quality one than the one that was ultimately taken. Now Quabbin looking to answer right back.
As Ariana Lopez will try to step up for the Red Raiders. There's a shot that goes just wide of the far side.
That one beat Council, but it also beat the far post. Narrowly avoided a second goal.
Now, Jordan Butler, 5 goals and 2 assists last year for the Red Raiders. She was the only one who broke the 6-point mark who was returned for the Red Raiders. The other 2 were seniors. So they'll be looking to the junior to try to provide a lot of scoring this season. As that's sent into the area very dangerously on. Council juggling it a little bit, but able to corral it, keep it up, and keep it away from the Panthers. Now we go into the final minute here of the first half. Quabbin still looking for that second goal. That's been quite elusive. And there's it sent across, looking for a redirection, but that one sails over everybody and out of bounds.
It's got to be tough to be a player on the field there. You know, you've been practicing and playing one way for so long. I wonder if maybe your instincts just kick in and you're like, well, let me swing this cross in and see if somebody can get up and head it into the goal. And you're not thinking in the moment that, oh, that's right, headers are banned. Nobody's going to jump up for that ball. Because that was the classic in-swinging cross that you look for someone to leap up and just head, and that's not going to happen.
Indeed, as we tick on to the final seconds. Now, we did have that stoppage, so although the timer on your screen says all zeros, we're probably still going to have about another minute. So consider this stoppage time.
Yeah, again, official time kept on the field. We do have a clock that we use for our purposes and to try to let you folks at home know the approximate time. But again, the official time is kept on the field. And considering the extended time that was taken up by the injury to Zoe Meyer, we really won't know the half is over until we hear that very long whistle.
Indeed, another good shot for Quabbin and another save for Council. Just scrambling to try to keep that away. But again, well done by the sophomore keeper. Been very impressed by what she's done here in this first half. Now, one more long ball for Quabbin, just a bit too far. And we see Zoe Meyer there, ready to take the goal kick, but there will be no goal kick as the whistle has blown for halftime here from Crocker Field, where the score remains the same. It is Quabbin 1 and Fitchburg 0.
Second quarter, very much like the first to my eye, Dan. Quabbin just absolutely controlled the pace of play all the way through. They must have had possession for, I would guess, 90% of that second quarter. And the scoreline is 1-0 at the moment, and Fitchburg should count themselves very fortunate that it isn't 2-3. You could make an argument for 4. And, you know, that's down to the play of the center backs, the play of the fullbacks, and really the play of Tanila Council, who has been extremely impressive as she has been tested pretty much constantly through the first 40 minutes of action.
8 saves for Council unofficially through 40 minutes of play. Shots 18-2 in favor of Quabbin. Shots on goal 9-0. In fact, 6 shots on goal from my count in that second quarter for Quabbin. But 6 saves for Tanila Council keeps them off the board.
And you did see the little dissolve there. That's just, you know, covering the passage of time. So we will not go to the locker rooms. Instead, we are ready right now for the third quarter of action. And here with the play-by-play is Danny Bolak.
Indeed. So now they switch sides for the third quarter. Quabbin will be going from right to left, and Fitchburg from left to right. Fitchburg in those red uniforms with black shorts, red socks, red and black trim as well. Quabbin in those white uniforms, gold numbers, white socks, white shorts, white everything except for the gold.
Yeah, white everything when they're in the sun. I mean, It's again, they did not consider television when they were designing their jerseys.
Did they ever think that we would be broadcasting one of their games?
They have TV cameras in wherever Quabbin is, in Barrie.
In Barrie, haven't talked about that yet. Quabbin, they serve a lot of northwestern Worcester County, 5 different towns. Barrie, Hardwick, Hubbardston, New Braintree, and Oakham. They have a combined population of about 16,000.
And I am almost certain that at least 5 of those 16,000 people has seen a video camera. So they should have, dang it.
Fitchburg winning the ball on a foul. And Meyer ready to kick it away. She didn't like some of the movement there, so she'll fake out. And now kick it right out of bounds. That was clearly a misfire.
I don't think that's in the playbook. I assume they have playbooks. I don't think that's on the sheet.
She was looking for Jordan Butler, but didn't get the greatest of foot there on that one. And now as that one goes off of Butler and out of bounds, Gretel DeMoro will have to kick in. A challenge there. Butler trying to settle it for Fitchburg. She goes into the near side corner, and that one is a little more on purpose. That's kicking it out of bounds because you sense that the ball is in danger and that you sense that they're going to try to pull a turnover. And in that case, at least you take the time you earn from kicking it out of bounds to reset your defense.
That's Chloe Laviguier down there for the Raiders. Just sending that one back out again. Looks like they're going to say this is a goal kick, though.
That's what it appears to be. Didn't get the best look ourselves on that one, so we'll defer to the officiating as Fitchburg will be able to move the ball out to midfield. It's Butler knocking it alongside, a clash of feet as they go for the ball. Now a long lead pass, but the sweeper able to knock that one away to the near side. Butler again trying to settle to the center circle. And moved out to the far side by Quabbin. Perhaps Madison Brewer having the ball there because you hear the Quabbin bench yelling, "Come on, Maddie." As it comes to midfield, we see Julia Hamill. She had 8 goals last season for the Panthers. They were able to bring back a lot of noted scorers. 6 different players on this roster who scored at least 5 points last season. Fitchburg trying to make a push-up for Mariana Lopez. But Quabbin will win the ball and bring it back in the direction from which it came.
First time we've called Lopez.
Go ahead.
First time we've called Lopez's name today. She's a freshman, new to the team.
If we look at the breakdown, Fitchburg has 16 players on their roster, 5 seniors, 3 juniors, 7 sophomores, and Lopez is the lone freshman on this squad.
1 freshman on the other side for the Panthers as well. They boast 20 players in total. 9 of them are seniors, 5 juniors, and 5 sophomores.
And they graduated, I believe, 9 seniors last year as well from that 12-win season, best season they had in a decade. You see DeMoro trying to handle it. This is Quabbin back in their own end. Catherine Kegel knocking into the center circle. Quabbin in transition now. Just over the running the ball for a moment. Amelia Stevenson now moves it off to the right side. And that's going to be knocked out of the reach of Hannah Stevenson as Council came to challenge. You can see the wind blowing incredibly now.
Yeah, the flag there in the back corner, almost at a 45-degree angle to the ground momentarily. Certainly very difficult conditions. Fitchburg has had enough trouble with their accuracy on the passing side. And the wind is certainly not helping matters.
Of course, it's been very windy this week. Heard reports of a tree falling at Crocker Field during the windstorm earlier this week, and one fell at Doyle as well for equal measure.
So it's not just a Thanksgiving football rivalry, it's a tree falling rivalry, right?
The winner to the one who loses the fewest trees. It's a tie right now. Go ahead.
I actually thought, Dan, as we get back to the wind blowing, I thought it was just the wind blowing outside my apartment here because, as we commentate this from the dim and distant future for when the game is played, it is also very windy in West Springfield right now.
And right now I've got a pair of headphones on, so I couldn't tell how windy it is outside my own front door as we record this. But nonetheless, though, it's been a very windy week up here in New England. So 6.5 minutes gone here in the second half, the 47th minute of play of 80 scheduled between Quabbin and Fitchburg. 1-0 Quabbin in front. They got a penalty just a few minutes into the contest. They scored on that. We've not told you who scored it because we don't actually know who scored it.
We mentioned we are in the dim and distant future, but I am completely unspoiled as to the outcome of this game, and Dan is a good actor.
As this one played into the area and battling for Quabbin was Hannah Stevenson, tied up with one of the Red Raiders. And they're going to rule a corner kick for Quabbin. It's, I think, the third they've had in this contest. Yes, I do know the score. I do actually know in the future what the final score is of this game. But could you ever tell that I knew?
That's right. I said you're a good actor.
Got to make that theater minor work for me, But that also means that I didn't look up in advance who scored the goals, when they happened. I have no idea if there are going to be more goals. But if there are going to be more goals, I don't know when they're going to be. Premature return to play there.
We're back to the discussion of should we be playing soccer.
You can hear the officials saying, whoa there. Not ready for the kick-in. Everyone has to be 6 feet apart before they can restart play. They were not convinced that was the case when the whistle blew.
I mean, they weren't that time.
If we're trying to make the run up on this right side, Michelle Tomei trying to play on for the Red Raiders. This has gone out through the end line, and it is going to be a quarter for Fitchburg.
Their first of the game, I believe.
That's what I've got. Good opportunity for the Red Raiders. Have not got a shot on target yet.
We saw a lot of the action, of course, on this right side of the field as Quabbin controlled possession for much of the first half. From Fitchburg's side, you would hope to see more of it on this side now. Although that possession comes to nothing, and Quabbin will get a chance to play it out.
Fitchburg will stay on top of it, try to keep the possession. Quabbin will send it to midfield. That's as far as they'll get on this one. Lopez with a touch. But now sent on the far side and a booming foot. Just trying to keep that in bounds. It looked like it walked the tightrope for a little while before it blew out because, again, the wind is blowing from the near side to the far side.
Yeah, that ball kind of just stayed right along the end line or the sideline for as long as it realistically could before finally going out.
Now, of course, the stands are on the near side, but you wonder what the wind effects are. That's a different discussion. Emma Willett with a touch. Now to the area, pushing on, top of the 6. There's a shot on. They score! Looks like it went off the near side post and in. And Quabbin has their second at the halfway point of the third quarter.
We've talked about it for much of this game, Dan, especially in the second quarter, how Quabbin probably deserved a second or third goal just because they had had so much possession and they were so dominant on the offensive end. That one came together very quickly. Quabbin got the ball. It was almost just on the counter. They put together the possession. They got the ball in the net, and they lead 2-0 as we go into the second half of the third quarter.
This is Richatelli now trying to push up field. Makes a nice move. Kicks to goal, and a nice save by Council.
Danila Council has been tested so many times in this game, and you can't expect her to stop everything. Fitchburg needs to have more of the ball. Their defense needs to stop more of these shots if they can. But really, Dan, Quabbin is just outplaying the Red Raiders.
As it goes right now, I mean, these two teams, they're not familiar with each other. They have not played each other in the last 3 years. And even though Quabbin plays in Mid-Wash C, they tried to balance, they set up the Mid-Wash divisions. I think they try to set it up in such a way that you've got teams like skilled teams playing with other like-skilled teams. Fitchburg often plays in Mid-Wash B in most sports. In girls soccer, they play in Mid-Wash E. And now here's a good chance for Fitchburg, but the ball just getting a little too far away, and Holland will kick that out of danger. Fitchburg will have the kick in, though, and they'll have a chance to set up their team.
And you look at the other teams that are in Mid-Watch E, Dan, none of those teams, aside from Murdoch and Narragansett, are in the pod with Fitchburg. Mid-Watch E last year has Tohoto, Air Shirley, West Boylston, and then Narragansett and Murdoch. Again, only Narragansett and Murdoch are in the pod with Fitchburg. So it's going to be some unfamiliar competition for the Red Raiders in this unique 2020 season.
And as we mentioned before, Murdoch and Narragansett are one team this year, playing under the Narragansett banner. I believe the other three teams, Tohoto, West Boylston, Air Shirley, are all in the same pod that St. Bernard's is in.
Meanwhile, on the other side for Quabbin, they actually have a lot of their familiar competition. They're in Mid-Watch C last year, Tingsboro, Quabbin, Hudson, Oakmont, and Gardner. Oakmont, Gardner, and Quabbin are all in this pod with Fitchburg. So while Quabbin had not seen the Red Raiders in a while before this season, they're going to be facing, Gardner, Oakmont, some of those teams last year that finished at the bottom of Mid-Watch C. They'll be playing those teams again here in 2020. So that may present an advantage for the Panthers.
Better familiarity of opponents. Oakmont had just 4 wins last year. Gardner struggled in conference play, but did actually get into the postseason with a 500 record. Their 7-8-4 record only becoming a losing record due to losing in the first round. And as on the other side with Mid-Wash, as we mentioned, Narragansett went 3-7 in conference, 7-9-2, but only a single win Murdoch was able to get with their limited roster as it was, and that's part of the reason for why those two teams are going to be playing together. A lot of familiar faces we're going to be seeing over the course of the year, and some of these teams I'm not exactly sure are teams that we would often be seeing, especially not someone like Quabbin, who's about 45 minutes out of the way. This is the longest trip they'll have to make this year, going from Barrie to Fitchburg. As this is Tomei, bring it up on the right side, but only white shirts around her. One of the challenges of transition play there. Defense getting back quite quickly, but able to knock it out. And so Fitchburg now with the kick in.
Raiders have looked a little more potent on the offensive end, but it only is, a little more potent to where Quabbin has probably had the ball for maybe 65% of this quarter as opposed to maybe 90% of the second.
I think we might have something here.
Zoe Meyer certainly wanted something.
Falling in the area. I believe this is going to be a penalty for Fitchburg.
Zoe Meyer drew the foul, got the call. Best scoring opportunity of the day by far for the Red Raiders. Meyer from the spot will attempt to cut this lead in half.
Red Raiders looking for their first goal of the season. This is a prime time to do it. Have not had a shot on target in this contest. Had not recorded a shot in this third quarter. Zoe Meyer with a chance.
Let's go, Zoe!
Meyer
Go for the corner.
setting up, taking her shot, she scores! Top right corner, a brilliant take there by the junior, Zoe Meyer. The Red Raiders are on the board.
Meyer suffered an injury earlier in the game, but she was able to stay in, able to get back out there. She gets the goal there from the penalty spot, makes it 2-1 in favor of Quabbin, but the Red Raiders are back in this one as we enter the final moments of the third quarter of action.
The Raiders in their first game this season shut out by Oakmont, but came to a draw because they themselves were able to shut out Oakmont. And in this one, although not able to keep Quabbin off the board, they now are on the board themselves, getting their first goal the same way that Quabbin got their first goal, by way of a penalty. So now 2-1 the score. 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
You wonder, Dan, if maybe Quabbin had taken their foot off the gas just a little bit and were content to play a little bit more of a defensive style with the 2-goal lead. And now that it's down to 1, we might see them kick it back into high gear.
I know one thing that's worth noting is, from what I've seen, Quabbin had a lot of trouble setting up chances in this third quarter. I only have them down as 2 shots, both on goal. It could be just me stopping paying attention on the ones that go wide, but I haven't seen much in terms of directed shots in this third quarter of play.
No, it definitely hasn't been as potent an attack from Quabbin as it was in the first and second quarters.
So
we talked a little bit about maybe Fitchburg would get tired on the defensive end. It's possible that the Panther offense just got a little bit tired out and they couldn't maintain that pace.
As they've been pushing very hard. Again, 18 shots in the first half we had them down as, with 9 on target, while Fitchburg only had 2 shots, both off target. That penalty was the first shot they had on target, of course, with nothing in your way. But it was a well-deserved penalty as Meyer was taken down in the area. As now they battle for it in the 6-yard box. Council trying to jump on top of it. As the ball makes its way out of bounds, it's going to be a corner for Quabbin.
Couldn't tell if Council was trying to get on top of it or just bat it over the end line. That was a very dangerous situation for the Red Raiders. Tennille Council able to just concede the corner kick, which is better than conceding a goal.
So that one's blasted well over the crossbar. Had a better shot at going through the football goalposts.
It probably would have been good. I think it had the height.
Now, as we see, looks like the way they set up here at Crocker, looks like about a 100-yard field is what they go for. And that's all. That's not a hard and fast rule how big the field has to be necessarily when it comes to soccer. Quabbin settles in the area, puts one towards goal. Council will pick that one up.
I mean, given that you're playing at Crocker Field, setting up for a 100-yard field just kind of makes sense. That's about how much grass you have available to you.
This one sent all the way down and kicked away by Holland. Go into touch on the near side. Our unofficial clock will run out here, but again, the quarter does not end until we hear the extended whistle.
Don't think there's going to be too much added time. There wasn't much in the way of stoppages. There wasn't the injury like we had in the second quarter. And that indeed is the end of the third period. So Fitchburg gets a goal back, but they also concede one. It was 1-0 Quabbin at the half, and it is 2-1 in favor of the Panthers as we end the third quarter. Dan, while we have a moment here, I want to thank very much the folks at FATV who made this broadcast possible. Obviously, we talked about how we have a very bare bones crew, so normally our credits are fairly long. It's just two names here. We want to thank Travis Falk, who went out and shot this game for us, and we also want to thank Nate Glennie, the executive director of Fitchburg Access Television, for putting together the Zoom end, getting myself and Danny on board here, getting us into this, and giving us the opportunity to call this game. Again, I've kind of harped on it, and I will continue to harp on it because I do think it is a bad and dumb idea that they're even playing these games. But with that having been said, it really does feel good to be calling a game here on FATV for you again.
I know, it's like a weird story, if you will, is the last game that I called before today was back in March. That was a game I called for the radio station here in Fitchburg involving Narragansett and Sabas Charter. And that game was held at Curry Hicks Cage on the campus of UMass Amherst. And they played that game, with no capacity restrictions. And there was a very nice crowd for that game, well over 2,000 fans packing into the cage there for that one. Meanwhile, about 2 miles south, Amherst College was hosting the second round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Division III tournament, and they were playing at zero capacity. No one was let into the building except for essential staff and players.
Yeah.
And so even then, that day, we were starting to see the effects of the pandemic start. We were starting to see teams, institutions and the like, start to make decisions in regards to trying to control the spread, trying to do what they needed to do. It was surreal even then, and now, 7 months later, we've got the ability here to bring you this game as it is. We've been able to, study what we need to do to make this happen. And it's quite an experience, to say the least. So one more quarter to play here between Quabbin and Fitchburg. 2-1 the score. Quabbin scoring in the 50th minute. The only goal we've had in this game in open play. A shot from the top of the area, curled in the left side post. And then 6 minutes later, Zoe Meyer on a penalty for Fitchburg, getting the Red Raiders on the board. Now Quabbin bringing it to the top of the area, not able to set up for a shot. Now player falling behind the play there in Rachel Brule.
Want to mention as well the upcoming schedule for the Red Raiders. Their next home game will be Thursday, October the 15th. They will be hosting the Narragansett Murdoch conglomerate, which I assume we're just calling Narragansett. Is that right?
I know Narragansett is the host team. I don't know what they're going by branding-wise, if they want to be Narragansett Murdoch or whatever that may be.
They should call themselves Matt Murdoch and be the Daredevils for a season.
That one put well wide there from Quabbin. And meanwhile, for Quabbin, their next contest, they're going to be playing Narragansett themselves. They'll be hosting that game in Barrie on the 13th of October. That'll be a 5 o'clock start for if anyone from the Quabbin region gets to see this game before it airs, before that game happens, then that'll be interesting information for them. Quabbin has definitely dominated in terms of the run of play shots, 22-3 in this contest in favor of the Panthers. With the scoreline, I imagine they would want it to be a little more lopsided than this.
I would think.
But Tamila Council has been strong in goal for the Red Raiders with 10 saves, but she's not going to be able to stop that one. Great transition from Quabbin, getting the touch on and past, and they make it 3-1.
Just a beautiful free kick from about the midline, sending it all the way deep into the Fitchburg end, and then a single touch right off the bounce. That developed so quickly, Dan.
So quickly, you could see the commentators curse at play right there.
Just talking about how Quabbin would prefer to have more goals on the board and how they really deserved it because of the possession they've had and the control they've exerted, the slow, dominating pace of their play, and then they strike like lightning. Make it 3-1 as quick as you can say, hey, look, it's 3-1.
Just impressive how quickly they were able to get downfield and how quickly they were able to set that up. Did it catch you by surprise? It caught me by surprise.
It caught me by surprise. Not going to lie. Foul called there on Emma Willett for the Panthers. One of the few glorious times we can actually make out the numbers on the back of the Quabbin jerseys. Everybody's doing their best.
Yeah. It's actually why I'm going to try to be in person at some of these games, because I know through a pair of binoculars I will be able to read these numbers. When we bring you the first boys soccer game featuring the Fitchburg Red Raiders, you'll get numbers. You'll get consistent names. But for now, this is also us just trying this out. I know, for instance, with the Stanley Cup playoffs, Doc Emmerich, the lead announcer here in America, he called all of the games from his home in Michigan. And it took him a little while to get used to the experience. And I know for us, it'll take a little while ourselves to get used to it.
It's different. It's it's not what you want. It's certainly better than nothing, but I would certainly rather be there. I would rather there be fans in attendance, but we've already talked about it 14 times. Let's not make it 15.
15 and a half to go in regulation time. Running that down and trying to clear from danger is Alexis Silverberg. They're now picked up on the far side by Stevenson. Quabbin with the cross, but it looks like it's gone out of bounds before the kick.
It's got to be deflating, Dan, for Fitchburg. You get the goal on the penalty. You're probably, a little bit, you're feeling lucky to be only down 2-1, but you've just gotten that goal. You're back in it. You feel like you've got the momentum. And then just like that, right off the bat at the start of the quarter, Quabbin basically from nothing puts together a goal. The deficit is 2 again. How do you get yourself back into the mindset, I guess, of, okay, we've got to go out and get 2 goals in less than 15 minutes now?
Oh, it is definitely challenging, to say the least. Doing all the work you've been doing to keep them at bay. As that one played into the area, but off a leg and out. I think we'll have a corner here. It's at least 6 now for Quabbin, only 1 for Fitchburg. All stats unofficial. That into the area, and again, that would be one of those plays where you could tell the player running in would like to play that with her head, but knowing that that's not permissible, she's got to try to settle it down with her leg instead and just can't get the right angle on it.
Yeah. Again, the things that the MIAA has done to try to legislate some of the most dangerous aspects in terms of interplayer contact. They try to legislate that out of the game. It does change the way the game is played. It's still fundamentally the same game. You still have the same objectives and all that, but it's a different game without the aerial element and without the heading, even at this level.
It's all things you have to be constantly thinking about, as well as Quabbin gets their 25th shot of the contest.
And Dan, I know there has been there's been some call for a long time, even before all of this with COVID-19. There have been some people saying they should ban heading from youth soccer and, scholastic soccer, high school soccer at all, just from a concussion standpoint. So this is really obviously, this is not an intended outcome or anything, but it is, in a weird way, a case study for what does soccer look like at the academic or scholastic level. If you ban heading, is that something you might want to consider doing in the long term as we think about, head and brain injury safety, try to prevent the number of concussions suffered in youth sports?
Even I remember when I was a kid knowing that that was always one of the dangers of soccer was concussions from heading soccer balls. How soccer ended up becoming the sport with the most concussions, in fact, if I recall. I think even more than football in a sense. And that's kind of impressive in its own way. But just because heading the ball is just such a common thing that you do in this sport.
Heading the ball and also the risks associated with that. Two players go up for, like we talked about the goal kick, banning goal kicks beyond the midline. As we see once again, Council comes out aggressively coming out of the net, making a good stop there. Getting back to goal kicks over the midline, why are those banned? Because you don't want players going up and heading the ball. Obviously, there's dangers in the repetitive trauma of hitting the ball, but there's also a danger of two players go up, their heads conk together. Now you have potentially a very serious injury. So again, it's a very unfortunate circumstances and nobody would have wished for it, but it does present an interesting case study of, okay, now we've banned heading. Let's see how many fewer concussions there are over the number of games that are played this season.
This is, in a sense, it's a way of trying to find silver linings here and there with the situations as they stand.
Right.
In a perfect world, we wouldn't be trying these out. In a perfect world, we wouldn't be thinking about making these changes to the game. But in a world where you have to adapt to the circumstances, it does give the opportunity to try something out like that. In a sense, we also see here Crocker Field with soccer lines on it, set up for soccer in mind. As Butler makes a run on, that's going to go off the leg of a Panther. Out of bounds it'll go.
Dan, if we start talking about perfect worlds, I'm going to have to bust out my I am not an employee of FATV, and my opinions do not reflect those of Fitchburg Access Television line, which is true, by the way. I'm not an employee of FATV, and anything I say is my own damn fault, including the fact that I just swore. Oops.
Whoops. Well, that'll be for editing out in post.
Ooh.
Quabbin making a run past midfield, and you can see this quick transition offense by the Panthers. And now, right there, Chloe Leviger, the last one back for Fitchburg, had control knowing that she had Panthers breathing down her neck, just had to kick it out of bounds, concede the corner, because anything else would have been far, far more disastrous.
No, if Fitchburg were to concede a fourth goal at this stage, it's already a difficult task, down by 2 with less than 10 minutes to play. Down by 3, it's, okay, let's just play out the string time. Fitchburg they've got to be very aggressive on offense, but their defense has to be just desperate to avoid conceding that fourth goal.
So we're in the final 10 minutes of this game. 3-1 Quabbin in front. That one could not be corralled before it went out.
And on the other side, Dan, for Quabbin, it's just, you've got the lead. Time is your greatest friend right now. Play it slow. Kick it out of bounds if you need to. Maybe don't hustle so much to get ready for play. All those little things that you do as a team that is leading, you just kind of make the clock your ally.
Remember that every second that you've got the ball is a second they don't have the ball. And every second you've got the ball is a second that the ball is not ending up in your net.
Or every second the ball is out of bounds. Or every second you're getting ready to play.
Now Quabbin trying to make another push. They've got a great run going here. As they turn around, shoot, saved by Council. And she's able to smother the rebound. As you can see, a Panther lurking right in front of her.
That was almost a very, very dangerous rebound conceded by Council. We've been very complimentary of her in this game, and overall she's had a fantastic performance. I think if there's something to work on, it is, controlling that ball on the initial touch as much as possible. Quabbin with another opportunity here.
And now settle at the 6 and just knocked away from danger. And now we'll have a whistle. That's a foul against the Panthers. But oh, so close to making it 4. Quabbin just setting up shop in the opposition penalty area, but not able to find a way to get it past.
Quabbin being a little more aggressive with their defending here, trying to stop Fitchburg from being in motion, trying to interrupt the flow of the Red Raiders' attack. That time we get a whistle pretty much right after the free kick.
I was thinking maybe there was going to be for a handball, but apparently it was for some other infraction away from the ball because they brought the ball so far back there. Julia Hamill with the restart. Riley Rischitelli to the top of the area. She's got some space. She turns, shoots. And that one just punched away, I think, by Council.
I think Council did get a hand on that. It's possible that it just hit the near side post, but Council went sprawling for that one, full extension. Think she was able to punch it away.
But it looks like we have a goal kick, so I guess she did not get a piece of it. What I have to imagine, because they would have given the corner kick if she had punched that away, because she would have been the last to touch it. Six minutes to play. 3-1, Quabbin in front. That looked like less than incidental contact that time.
I think, we talked about it at the very start of the broadcast, Dan, about how the officials are going to be very liberal with the whistles. I think, if we were not in the times we are in now, that little shove there by Michelle Tomei would have just been, fair play, play on. But being as they're trying very hard to legislate the game more, actually hold up here.
There's a fourth goal for Quabbin. And just like the last one, just taking advantage of the transition, quickly bringing it downfield. And before Fitchburg's defense even has a chance to get in position, Quabbin's got all day to shoot. They've made it a 4-1 game.
And it comes right on the heels of that foul called against Tomei, which, as I was saying, may not have been called in previous seasons, but with the directive from on high to really legislate the contact out of the game, both sides knew this coming in. I'm not saying it was an unfair call or anything like that, but Tomei concedes the foul. Quabbin is right there on top of it. They get a fourth goal.
Oh my goodness me!
They put in a fifth one right here.
That's Fitchburg putting that in a way. Jordan Butler just trying to turn it towards goal. And that happens.
That's a very good descriptor of it. And that happened. Wow. It looked like there was some miscommunication on the Quabbin side. Like Sophia Holland wasn't sure if she was going to play it or if one of her defenders was going to play it, and then nobody played it.
And it was on target and into the net. And that makes it 4-2.
Fitchburg gets an absolute gift as we go under 4 minutes to play in this one. Whatever hopes the Raiders had would have been dashed down 3 goals. Now, it's still very, very difficult, but they are within shouting distance here. 2 goals. It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible.
That's put just wide of the cage there. But yeah, that was It's still hard to find words. Did anyone actually get a touch on that ball?
I don't think so. I think maybe Holland fell on it just after it crossed the line, but
Well, I'm going to give that goal to Jordan Butler, and presumably those who have seen the box score already know if that is her goal or not.
sure.
As here's Rischitelli, turns his shoot, scores!
That is a fantastic individual effort by Riley Rischitelli. Found the ball in open space, just settled it down, turned, shot, put it in the top left corner. The 5th goal of the game for Quabbin may well be the prettiest one. And I think it's all over but the shouting at this stage. 5-2 in favor of the Panthers with about 2.5 minutes to play.
Well, I guess you had to feel that Quabbin, after giving up that second goal to Fitchburg, they had to make up for it somehow. And Riley Rischitelli and then some with a beautiful turning strike. It's so difficult to stop for much of anyone.
And really, Dan, I think this was a case of, Quabbin kept pressing the attack. They kept being aggressive. They're actually going to call this one here, maybe a little early by our unofficial timer, but that looks to be the final. 5-2, Quabbin with the victory.
Yeah, so that is the whistle for full time as it goes from keeping track on the field. But yes, Quabbin comes away with the win, a final score of 5-2, and Quabbin very much the more dominant performing team. The interesting thing is I look at my final stats is I have a 50% ratio for shots on goal percentage. I have 4 shots for Fitchburg, 2 on target. I had 32 shots for Quabbin, 16 on target.
32 shots is a remarkable number. 16 shots on target is another it's too much for Fitchburg to handle. Tanila Council did all she could. The Fitchburg defenders did all they could. But at the end of the day, we talked about it in the first half. There's the risk that Fitchburg is going to get tired, and I think that's what happened in the third and then especially in the fourth quarter of this one. Quabbin just kept pouring it on, kept pressing the attack. Ultimately, Fitchburg broke, and when they broke, they broke in a big way. The floodgates opened up, and Quabbin put together goal after goal after goal right at the end of this one. 5-2 the final. A fantastic job done by the Quabbin Panthers as they emerge victorious.
Indeed. And so for Fitchburg, obviously a bit of challenge. As we mentioned, Quabbin, a very good team, had 12 wins last year, and they pick up their first win today. But obviously, they didn't get 12 wins just by good fortune. They got it by strong skill, and they showed off a lot of what they could do today. A senior-laden team, 9 seniors on this roster, and that's obviously quite helpful. A lot of leadership there, a lot of experience. As we mentioned, they had 6 players come back who registered at least 5 points. And we saw Rischitelli, she got the last one at the very least. She was in the discussion for goal scoring all day long.
Just so many contributors up and down the roster for Quabbin. Congratulations to them. They did a fantastic job. For the Fitchburg side, there are definitely some positives there. Tanila Council, even giving up 5 goals, you have to be proud of the effort she put in, because with a lesser keeper in there, it easily could have been 5 by the end of the first half. On the other side of the coin, you have to say they need to press the attack more. They need to have the ball more often and take some of that pressure off of the defensive line and off of Council. Yep. So again, our next broadcast, Dan, in terms of just girls soccer, is going to be the game that takes place on Thursday, October the 15th. We're not going to have that live for you here on FATV, but we are going to have it out just as quickly as we can. And after that, I know we're going to be doing boys soccer, girls field hockey. We're going to be doing as much as we can. But again, we are doing this in a way that we feel and we truly believe is not going to increase the risk to, obviously, our staff, our volunteers, or the participants in these games. As long as we can do that, we feel okay, and we feel in a way obligated to bring these games to you, and we hope you'll be with us. Dan, do you have any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Well, and at the end of the day, I think what's also important for us is as you mentioned before, we want to bring these games to you for all of those who can't attend. After all, strict capacity requirements currently in play. So even if you want to go, you can't just go. You have to have one of those magic lanyards to get in. And for here, we just hope that by being able to bring these games to you, that if you weren't able to get out to Crocker Field, if you're not able to get out to Game On Fitchburg to see the field hockey team play, you'll have the ability to see them play. And frankly, it's a great way to get some other teams on our FATV airwaves as well. I mean, as you mentioned, when is the last time we saw a soccer game here on FATV? It was probably about time that we gave the boys and girls soccer teams some love. It's about time I dust off my field hockey skills and be able to bring that to the table. So again, we'll be bringing the games as they're completed, as we get all the editing done. So we know when the games are happening. We just don't know when they're going on the air.
And we will do everything we can to keep you folks appraised of the schedule. Absolutely keep in touch with FATV. We are on Facebook. You can just go to fatv.org. We'll have schedules there. We're going to do everything we can to bring as many of these games to you as we can in a safe and secure manner. And the safety, obviously, you hear it a lot from people who are being maybe a little disingenuous about it, but we really are saying, we really do mean it when we say that safety is the most important thing. We're going to do what we can, but we're going to do it safely. And if it can't be done safely, we're not going to do it. And that's just the way it's going to be. But that's enough of that, at least for now. For Dan Bolek, I am John Gugerty saying thank you so much for being with us, folks. Thank you for allowing us into your homes. And we will see you next time right here on FATV.